Hello, ladies and gents. It is I, Moore, and I am here to talk about essentially how social media brainwashes you. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen any other videos on this topic on YouTube. If you have, this is just another video pretty much saying the same thing that they have, but I would still like for you to stick around because I think I'll have my own unique takes if you don't mind. Social media starts off with your timeline, of course, and your timeline is usually consistent through the algorithm of things that you enjoy. Now, these things that you enjoy, they get this information by going through your data and whatnot. You get the whole gist. I'm pretty sure you know about data tracking and whatnot. Now that they have you invested, now that they have your time, this is where they start throwing out their narratives. Now, one thing you need to understand about our world is that our world essentially works on narratives. Basically, what I mean by this is ever since society has really been a thing, and ever since civilization and government, I should say more so, has been a thing, they usually have to control the population. They don't have to, but they usually tend to try to control the population through means of narrative, by controlling the narrative of what a situation, when a situation happens, they basically control what people think about that situation or what people know about that situation. And back in the day, they used to do this through propaganda, various propaganda such as newspapers and maybe articles and whatnot, word of mouth. That's how they controlled the narrative. It was very easy because there was not much influence. Like it was just all word of mouth, or it was through papers, and it got passed through it was written. But today it's a little bit different. Today, the way they push a narrative is essentially, if you notice how quickly trends change and how quickly pay attention to the left more so, how the left narrative and the right, but how both sides narrative change like almost every week. How both sides is almost like fighting for a new thing every week. There's a new hashtag every week. The new hashtag is actually the new narrative. The new hashtag is actually a new narrative. And what I mean by this is, if you notice, like, I am black, but let's go back to the Black Lives Matter movement. In the Black Lives Matter movement, hashtag BLM, that was only lasted for about 2 weeks. When people posted the black screens and had their PFPs all black, that was essentially the government controlling the narrative about what's going on here. So be it, whether you feel like it's in a good or bad way, they're still controlling a narrative in the favor that they wanted to be in the light that they wanted to be in, and all of us are sort of following it. This is exactly what they want. They want hashtags, they want people to be posting about it, and they want people to push their narrative for them. And essentially, with social media, we've made their jobs 10 times easier, because all they have to do is have a press conference, say their spiel. Then their press, or the people on their staff, the people on the politician staff will then go on social media, make these hashtags, and push narrative. And then once it gained a little bit of traction, then you have the whole entire Twitter block, the whole entire Instagram, Facebook, every social media platform pushing this narrative for the respective group that needs their narrative push. Now, you're probably wondering, oh wow, Moore, how do I stop myself from being a narrative pusher? I don't want to push these narratives that I don't really believe in. I don't want to be a person who just follows the herd. Well, now, if you don't want to be a person who just follows the herd, I suggest you start off by deleting your social media. I know it's hard, and it's something that I just did recently, and you can go back, but to start off, I think it's best to resolve yourself from the narratives, so you can really see that life without the narratives is a lot better. You don't it's a lot of things in the world that people make you care about that you really just don't care about. Not saying that you shouldn't, just saying that if without the narrative and without being pretty much peer pressured to believe in a narrative, you kind of resolve yourself of a lot of pressure in public situations when people ask you about these things or when people start talking about it. Then you can just say, well, I haven't really seen it. Tell me about the situation. And then that's when you'll really start to notice how brainwashing social media can be. These people will tell you about the situation, and because you're now on the perspective of you haven't even heard about the situation, pay attention to how they explain it to you. The way people start to explain these narratives is exactly how a headline would be. You can tell that people start to talk in very exaggerated words when they start to talk about these things that doesn't seem like that big of a deal. For example, the Chris Rock and the Will Smith slap. People were talking about it for weeks, days, because that was a narrative. That's what people want to talk about. And the narrative specifically was that Will Smith, actually there was two narratives. One narrative was that, oh, this is bad, like this is the worst thing I've ever seen on television. And then the next narrative was, oh, well, we got to realize what Will Smith is here. Like, oh, he's a black man struggling with mental health, blah, 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 yada, 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 yada. So that was that narrative, right? So those are the two narratives. And depending on who you ask, they'll push this to you. When you were in the room and people are talking about the Will Smith, Chris Rock situation, you'll either get one of those two narratives by whoever's in the room or whatever Twitter they're on that week. And it's really interesting because as a bystander in the situation, or as a person in the situation who has no clue of what is a narrative, and you pay attention to how these people talk about it, you'll start to realize that you kind of realize how crazy it is. Because like I said, the Will Smith's like if you watched it, all that happened, he went up there, Chris Rock was making a couple jokes, and then Will Smith wife didn't like it. Will Smith saw that, got up and smacked him, went back to his seat. They laughed it off and kept it pushing. But then after that, people had whole entire think pieces about the situation. Like, it went longer than that. It didn't. It was just a slap, right? And if you think about a slap, it's like he just slapped you. Like, get on about it, right? But these people, when you talk to them about it, they'll give you exaggerated, like, oh, he slapped him and just let out all his rage on him, and he really needs to check his mental health and all this other stuff. And you're like, where are you getting all this from? Who are you all of a sudden? Are you a psychiatrist, or who? Like, when did you get your PhD in psychology? You know, like that's what it'll make you start to feel. Social media is a hyper reality. It makes us think about things and feel about things in a very exaggerated sense, because that it can trigger so many emotions at one time because of the different outlets of media that it can get to us, that it can portray to us. It can play music, you can watch videos, memes, articles, so many different forms of entertainment and information getting that is allowed on these apps. That makes it a lot more accessible and a lot more addictive. Essentially, delete Instagram, delete Facebook, delete Twitter. Twitter was the hardest for me, simply because I love Twitter. I love seeing like the discourse on it, because, you know, I love the debate. I love to see what people are talking about. But now I don't think so as much, because I realize through this break that it's all narrative. Like, the people say the same exact things on each side. Depending on which side they're on, they'll have the same narrative, and it's kind of scary when you really pay attention to it. So if anything from this video, if you don't believe anything I'm saying about how Instagram creates this hyper reality and how it makes us believe things in a way that are not really is, I want you to do something for me. Go and delete Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or whatever social media platform you have, for a week. Go a week without it, and during this week, try to talk to people, or try to be in rooms where people are talking about, like, you know, new shit that's going on. probably you have friends where you hop on a PS4 party and they start talking about what's on Twitter, or you and your girlfriends go get coffee or go to a park and start talking about what's on Twitter, Instagram, or whatnot. I encourage you to talk to people during this time and see what's happening, but without being in it. And then you'll start to see and really pay attention to the way the words and the way people describe these things. And you'll start to see that we are in a hyper reality. That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to continue doing content like this, talking about, how society now is, and just kind of picking apart the flaws that I feel like are within it. Now, by no means do I feel like I'm a miracle worker or like I'm someone above everyone, because I kind of realize this, or that I know these things. I simply just want to share the knowledge that I have. I don't think I'm above anyone. I will actually encourage you guys to, be in the comment section and tell me things that you might disagree with or things that I missed. So that's all I want to say for this video. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Bye.